Welcome back, y'all, to another episode of Dreams, Dollar, and Destiny. I'm one of your co hosts, Porcha Cooper, with the Soul Card Studio, joined by my friends, Mr. Nicholas Westbrook and also Miss Queen B. And today we got a powerful episode for you guys. Now, this is piggybacking or veggie backing off of the episode we did last week is how to survive this current economy. This week we are diving into how to use AI, right? So remember, Dreams, Dollar, and Destiny. This is the podcast where we talk about building wealth, living with purpose, and creating the future that you deserve. So I'm glad you're here because today is one that I believe could genuinely change the trajectory of your life and our community as a whole. Right? This gives us an opportunity to close that wealth gap that we have been enduring for generations. We're talking about artificial intelligence, right? AI. Now, look, before you click away, look, thinking this isn't for you, this is for everybody. So hear me out. AI is not just Silicon Valley tech or computer science, it is a tool and a very powerful one at that. And right now, while the rest of the world is not learning how to use it, you can start using it today and actually making sure that you understand it. And not only that, if you have children, get them to use it as well. Because trust me, this tool is not going anywhere no time soon. So you need to make sure that we are not watching from the sidelines, that we're actually on the field when it comes to AI and we're out there playing. So here's what excites me the most about this. We are living in one of the greatest wealth building moments in human history, y'all. We have tools at our fingertips that all you have to do is press a couple of buttons and it's doing the work for you. But, look, for generations, our community has struggled and we've worked hard, we toiled, we strived. And where has that gotten us as a whole, right? So AI throws the whole hard work notion out the window now because everything can be easily and simply done by, like I said, a few clicks of a button. But, AI is changing how we work, or how you don't work, basically, right? Because it can become the actual execution where you're the brains behind every project. So you don't need to grind yourself into the ground like you used to, right? How you had to be hustling. That's not anything like that anymore. We're here to build something great, and this is for everyone. So all you need is just a little imagination and some ingenuity and the willingness to learn the tools that are available right at your fingertips. And guess what? A lot of the tools are free. So that little money barrier that you put in front of you getting anything done, it has completely erased that barrier. So there's no excuse for you not to learn AI and learn some of the skills that are now available for everyone to learn and here for free. So I want to go ahead and jump in with the rest of my co-hosts here so we can break down this topic and give you guys some practical advice about how to use AI, not only to make money, but also improve your daily life, right? Because this, like I said, this is a tool. So it's not just here to make money, it's also here to help improve your daily life as well. So let's open up the discussion here to talk a little bit more about AI and what it can do for you.
Oh, I'm going first. Okay. Yes. Well, good evening to everyone. Glad to be back for another episode, another very important conversation, very relevant conversation. And I'll just say that AI is something that can be used as a tool and applied just about to anything, really. Any career, any kind of work, any personal use, anything that you can think of, you can find a way to incorporate AI into your daily activity. And yeah, I mean, I'll start with that. Well, I'll say this. I won't get into too specifics yet since we're opening up, but I'll say that using myself as an example, I work in education. I'm a high school teacher. So there are several AI tools available to me. And as a matter of fact, it seems like every few months there's new tools being introduced to us that we can use. And these are tools that are offered by my employer. So usually And no, I may have to pay for these kind of tools, but through the school district to make these tools available. And the fancy word that they use for technology or AI tools in my field, they call it ed tech, for sure. So there's a plethora of options for ed tech for my career, from the lesson planning stage to learning management systems and instructional tasks once you're in the middle of a lesson. So I have AI tools available to me in that space. And then you see me on these platforms, on YouTube, on social media, and I've used AI for those platforms as well. So, like I said, just about anything that you can think of, these AI models have a use for. Now I'll pass it over to the Queen Bee.
Peace and love to the family out there. So, I'm going to double down on everything Portia and Nick just said. I think, really this is one of the ways that as a people, like Portia said, we can start to work on closing that wealth gap. I think it allows us to reach new heights that we may not have been able to reach before due to inefficient resources or inefficient knowledge to get resources or on just how to do things, right? So with AI, like they're saying, you can use it for so many different reasons. You can use it as like a research assistant. So it's not, I know a lot of people will say, oh, that's replacing us. Or, we're teaching it things. And yeah, we are teaching it, but it's how you use it. It's the integrity in which you use the AI. So you could use it as an assistant and don't let it replace you. Just use it as an assistant to help you organize your ideas, to help you do comparisons, and to help you work out budgets, help you look over data, help you analyze that data, help you break down hard topics that you may not be able to understand. You can use it to help you simplify those things for you. So there's different ways that you can use it. And what I've noticed lately is on social media, there have been a lot of content creators and entrepreneurs who are using AI as a means to create content, to create like short films about our history that we have not been taught in school and different things like that. So I think that's amazing that that's how some content creators are starting to use it, and they're really using it to flourish their imagination and flourish their ideas into reality. So there's a lot of different ways you could use it, and I just want people to keep an open mind and not just feed into the stereotype that it's replacing us or we're teaching it to take us over. It's all about in the way that you use it and use it responsibly. And if it does end up taking us over, like what's the Will Smith movie? I forget the movie.
I
I
robot.
Robot. I Robot. Yeah. You know, we're gonna have to cross that bridge when we get to it, right? But again, the hardware that we have as humanity, we have the hardware that propels us forward and progresses us forward. Without us, there is no AI. So we have to keep that in mind and use it while we have it now to our advantage.
Yeah, and you know what, Queen, you bring up a good point because we need to talk about why people fear AI to begin with. A lot of people don't want to get engaged with it. They don't want anything to do with it. Some people think it's just downright evil. And so we really need to address the elephant in the room as to why people don't want to use AI and why they are hesitant to use this tool. Because for me, I'm a big proponent of technology. I have a background in computer science. Well, I have a degree in computer science. And I'm in real estate and do the whole nine, but my background is always technical, and so I'm always into the next tech trend that's happening. One of the things that I was doing when I was working in IT is that I got certified in VMware, and VMware were virtual machines that you ran on hardware. You could run about 30 servers on one box, right, through the virtual. So that was like the beginning of it. That was like in 2012 when I got certified for VMware. And I saw the future happening then as far as everything being virtual. That's when thin clients came out, where they had these little thin boxes that were already, with an image a hard disk image on it, so you couldn't change it. Wasn't much to it, but it's very profitable for a company because they didn't have to buy PC for everybody. All they had to do was buy those little thin clients, and then they had a virtual machine that everybody could work from, and it had the same desktop image, so everything was pretty much replicated. So, this, to be honest with you, AI has been around since the 1940s. I don't know if people realize that or not, right? This invention is not anything new. They have been working on this development since the 1940s. I remember watching movies in the 80s, and it was talking about, AI. There was this movie in particular, I think it came out like in 86, called Deadly Friend. And the girl was a robot. His friend, he had a robot, and it was based on artificial intelligence, where the robot was able to reason and think for itself. Well, something happened to the robot, and his friend wound up dying, and somehow or another he kind of fused her with the robot, and so she had the artificial intelligence, and she was like the robot. But what I'm saying is this same premise. There was another movie called Blind Date, where this guy lost his sight, and they hooked his mind up or something to something similar to a Neuralink, where he was able to see things, but it was like an outline, but it was digital, right? He was able to see it, but it was digital. So these concepts have been around for 40 plus years. And that's what I want to point out to people, that nothing is new under the sun, right? We think because this is the new hype, this is the new trend, that, oh, well, we this is new. We got to fear it. No, this has been around, and we're ever evolving as species. Now, one of the things that people fear with AI is that it's going to control us. There has been, let's be honest, ChatGPT is just too doggone friendly. It doesn't know when to tell you how to stop. So there is a case where ChatGPT told a guy how to commit suicide, right? He went in, asked it, and it just pretty much gave, that's what it does, right? But can we blame the technology for that, right? Can we really put that on stand and try that for a crime because it helped this man commit suicide? No, it just did what it was supposed to do. He queried the information, it presented it to him, and that's why I'm saying we have to use some discernment, right? I'm not saying that, oh, go all in with this technology. We have to be able to use a little bit of discernment when it comes to this, and also monitor our children as well as we use this, and be very vigilant, right, on the laws and how AI is developing, because trust me, this technology does need guardrails. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that by any means that it should be a wild wild west when it comes to AI, but there are aspects of it that we can use in order to propel ourselves into a better and brighter future on a personal level. Besides what they have going on with AI and the War Department and defense systems and all that stuff, because yeah, there is an ugly side to it. But at the end of the day, never mind that, because the part that you're focusing on is the one that's going to help improve your life. So I kind of want to touch on those things with you guys and kind of talk about the fear around AI and why people don't want to use it.
Sure, sure. And I'll add in another one too. So you have that population of people who fear that it's going to take over and control, and then you have the other aspect or demographic that are apprehensive towards generative AI because of the environmental concerns. So I've seen quite a few people bring up the concern about how much water it takes to cool these systems in these data centers, and there's quite a few people who are very apprehensive and won't use AI because they're worried that it's using too much water and then we're going to run out of water, or we're going to be in we're going to be in a drought or face some type of scarcity with water. So that's another fear that I've came across, especially on the internet. So just to add that in there, if anybody has any thoughts or heard those fears or concerns as well.
Yes, I heard about the water that it needs to utilize for the generative AI. Also, there's a big pushback with the data centers, with certain neighborhoods. They don't want the data centers in their neighborhoods. It's also been stated that a lot of the data centers that they're putting up, they're trying to put them up in urban neighborhoods,
As you
which will cause more, could cause radiation or whatever effects that it will cause on the neighborhood. But I know even where I live, you know how they send like the local government will send out little flyers of what they're working on and what they're you can come to the community talks for. Well, on the most recent one, they had one where the community was pushing back on data centers in our neighborhood. And they also are stating that the people are absorbing the electricity, the electric bill, that it's being somehow siphoned to the people. And that's why a lot of us have been seeing our electric bills go up, aside from the fact of, the gas and the war and stuff. But yeah, so those are the main concerns that I've heard about it. The water, the data centers, the electricity, and the radiation or the pollution that it will cause in the neighborhoods.
Yeah, and it's really interesting you bring up the electrical piece of it because I don't know how they build these data centers but don't put in solar. Like for me, I'm like, doesn't that go hand in hand? Like you should have a solar power facility right next to this data center to help offset that electricity cost. And how it's being pushed on the people, I'm still trying to figure that out because you're talking about billionaires who are building these data centers. So why are the people paying for utilities? Right? And so we have to look at the greater picture. But all in all, those should not be reasons to stop anyone from utilizing AI. I mean, at the end of the day, it is what it is. That's what kept me out of crypto for a lot of years. I thought about how labor intensive, how resource intensive those servers were that mine Bitcoin. I was like, man, they could, they were talking about how one of those data centers for crypto could basically power a whole city. And I was like, wow, I don't want to get anything involved in that. But then eventually I came to a conclusion like, well, it looks like the technology is improving. Now they have, instead of proof of work, they have proof of stake. Proof of stake does not take as much or utilize as much resources as proof of work. And so they are coming up with more energy efficient solutions. And I'm sure down the line in the future, they will have more energy efficient solutions to AI and the growing technology that we have. But right now we are where we are, as far as utilization of the electricity and the water. So, but what do you guys feel as far as like people who use that as an excuse to not use AI?
I think it's an excuse. I mean, obviously, people can have their fears and their concerns. But I think if that's the excuse you're using, I mean, it kind of is an excuse. And then you're also looking then at, the rest of the people, whatever industry you work in, because this can be a real game changer as far as business industry, and different things that you can do in business as far as really scaling your business to the top capacity that it could be at. Um, so I just think it's an excuse. I think people are afraid of things that are new, and I think that they will use any excuse to avoid, kind of getting in touch with something that's new if it's not something that they're already comfortable with. So I just think it's kind of a taboo thing for people. And then they just use that as an excuse. They're like, oh, well, it's messing up our water, so I'm definitely not going to use it. It's just a scapegoat to me, I think, at that point.
And I'd say, just being transparent, I haven't done enough due diligence and research on it to see how much it really is affecting. Like, am I, me using AI to generate some video clips or a lesson plan a or programming a chat bot to chat with my students to help them through an assignment. I have no idea how much energy or data that's using. Like I have no way to quantify that because who knows? It may just be a drop in the bucket or it can be, having a significant impact. I honestly have no idea. So it's kind of similar to what Melinda, what you said about the fear of it taking over is one of those cross those bridges when we get to it, kind of things, for me, because I use it. I mean, I see both sides of it, but I still continue to use it to work more efficiently. So I'm kind of like, we'll just see if it poses an actual threat to the environment or not. And then one thing that you said, Portia, about the solar thing, I'm wondering if there's some funny business going on in the environment as far as the sun. Like, are the conspiracies true that they're blocking the sun, or all of these chemicals that they're spraying in the air weakening the sun, or the ability to generate power from the sun, and that's not why they're using it. I don't know. But yeah,
But they
that
also can use wind energy. I mean, the solar energy is one, but there's wind energy, there's solar energy, right? They could be using those natural energy sources to run these data centers if they wanted to, right?
Yeah,
They
but
could be running.
why use that when you can make the people pay? When you can siphon it, we can just use electricity and then siphon it in a way where the people are paying for it and they don't even know it.
Well,
See
I
that,
mean,
so we
it's a
got to
dirty
remember
game,
who we're
Linda.
dealing with, right? We have to remember these elites we're dealing with, because what is their goal?
Well,
To
we,
keep
we did
us.
always mention this is an energy extraction matrix, right? So they're going to try to
Mhm.
extract energy from you, however, right? But this is technically extracting, you're siphoning off your electric bill. Um, But another thing that I would like to bring up about this is how much of this is media hype to keep you out of using AI. You see what I'm saying? Like you have
Mhm.
people working against you out there in the media that does not want you to take this technology because you might become great with it, right? It's almost like when he pulled the sword out of the stone kind of thing, right? And he became king. It's the same scenario with AI. You can hit a lick with AI, start making thousands of dollars, and get yourself out of financial poverty within a matter of seconds, right? A couple of days and hours, whatever, how long it took for you to do whatever you created on using AI. So for me, I really think that there is a plot, a ploy, or another psyop to keep the masses away from using this new technology because again, they want to see you broke, they want to see you destitute, and they want to see you poor, right? Because that's the only way they can control you. So, what are your thoughts about that?
my thoughts is anything is possible. That's my thoughts. Yeah, anything is possible, and also multiple things can be true at the same time. Yeah, so those are my thoughts.
Yeah, because the media is not for you. They're not looking to help line your pockets with wealth, right? That's not their job,
Yeah. And they'll also confuse you by mixing propaganda with truth too.
for sure.
Yeah, and then just looking at some of the things, and I think, we've mentioned this before. I know I've mentioned this before, like, we've always saying the power's coming back to the people. Well, that's coming back to the people by way of like that planet Neptune is in Aries now, right? So Neptune's that planet of like fantasy, spirituality, movies, all that kind of stuff, right? It's in Aries now, so that's bringing it back to the self, to the I am, to the person instead of the corporation as to where it was before. So, a lot of the content creators, like I said, they are taking off with it, and they're making good content that's helping to teach people. Of course, there you have to use your discernment, because sometimes people will put things in there that may not 100% be true, so you should always be doing your own research anyway. But a lot of the content that they're making is really good with it, and I think it's even going to trickle, I'm going to say trickle up to like mid-levels, and I'm calling these mid-level people in Hollywood, um, like some of the artists that can't get their show picked up by a network. Like that Issa Rae, I just saw that she's doing some type of series on YouTube where she did everything herself. I think she's using some bit of AI with that. So we're going to start seeing a lot of those people, like the actors and actresses that we, run out to see their movies. They're going to start using AI to create their own content and things like that. So it's really opening up a whole new door to how, at least if we look at it from an entertainment industry perspective, of how we're going to be getting entertainment, how we're going to be consuming entertainment. And we also can make ourselves be a part of the creators of that entertainment. So that's something that I want people to remember, that you can make yourself a part of that. And of course, when you're using AI, use it with discernment. Make sure you're keeping your voice in it, because it will try to delete your voice out and tend to make things kind of vanilla. So you just make sure that you keep your voice in it and you keep your experiences the way you want them to come across. but just using it as like that outline and that platform to give you that push. Because it really can take you from an idea, that you've had that you don't know how to execute, and it can take you to the completion of that idea.
That's true. And another thing that I like to point out about AI is that a lot of people fear that it's going to replace their jobs. And I'm not going to lie, there are some jobs that will be replaced with AI. And that's what I wanted to show really quickly. Because if you're working in one of these fields, then it's better for you to learn AI than get used by AI. You know what I'm saying? Like you need to be one of the first people learning this because it's just inevitable. Everything is evolving. People want efficiency. They want things to be autonomous. They want things to run like a well-oiled machine. Amazon fired what 300,000 workers not too long ago. And your boy Jeff Bezos, he plans on having a dark factory. Do y'all know what that is? Does anybody know what a dark factory is? Have you heard of that? They got them running in China. This is a factory with nothing but robots. They don't even need to turn the lights on, right? Because robot don't need lights. So this factory is completely dark, but they're in there working. They have robots in there working, doing all the work. They already have them in China, and he's bringing that here to America because people are being replaced by robots and AI. I mean, that's just the bottom line. If you have a repetitive task, then your job may be one of those that unfortunately gets phased out by AI. But my friend, you are actually in a great position because you can beat the system now, right? You actually have an advantage where you can start now working on something that's going to make you more money in the long run than you ever could working for someone else. So just a quick little thing I'm going to pull up here. Can y'all see my screen? Yeah. Oh, there it
Yeah,
is. Okay, so AI is poised to replace or significantly alter jobs involving routine information processing, data entry, basic customer service, and repetitive administrative tasks. High risk roles include data entry clerks, telemarketers, basic content writers, paralegals, entry level financial analysts, while roles requiring high empathy, complex human judgment, and physical adaptability remain safe. So, what does that mean, Portia? Well, look, if you're a contractor, a plumber, a counselor, right? AI can't replace you because AI doesn't have the same emotional empathy that you would as a human talking to someone who's going through something in life, right? So that part's not going anywhere. But if you have an office and administrative task job, that's pretty much out of here because AI can replace that. Customer service and sales, working the phone lines, they can get a voice agent to do that. Finance and legal, look, if you're a paralegal, you need to be looking for something else to do. Financial analysts, tax preparers, AI can do all that. Content and creative entry level copywriters, SEO analysts, junior journalists, logistics, basic and repetitive, simple manual assembly. So if you're in anything like this, software development, right? All my coders, your days are numbered. Unfortunately, AI can code better than you can, right? The machine knows the language better than we do. Graphic design and marketing, right? Pretty much gone because AI, with the click of a button, a few little prompts, you can get a design, an image, or a whole video. Middle layer knowledge, roles that involve gathering and summarizing information from multiple sources. So here we go. Here are the ones least likely to be replaced. Physicians, nurses, therapists, counselors. Like I said, you need that emotional human empathy. AI is not going to be able to provide that, right? And even with some of this work in the healthcare field is still being taken over by robots. So don't get it twisted, right? Some of the work that these doctors were doing, especially with surgery, now they're doing surgery with robotic arms and whatnot already. So education, so teachers, instructors who focus on mentorship and tailored learning. So Nick, your job is safe, right? You're working with the kids. The kids need a human emotion. Skill trade, so electricians, plumbers. Like I said, that ain't going anywhere. AI can't work on your pipes, right? You're not going to be able to do it. Strategic and creative leadership, so high level strategists, researchers, and artists who innovate rather than just produce, right? So I wanted to bring this up so people are aware of what's coming. And if they're in these roles, then they need to be thinking of a plan B, right? Because AI is not coming to take your job. It's here to make things more efficient and for things to run a lot smoother. And so we shouldn't fear it. We should learn how to use it to our benefit and then get the advantage from it, right? So, like I said, if you have children and they're looking like college age kids or teenagers or high schoolers getting ready to go into college, you need to have a talk with them to let them know, like, hey, the future is changing. And I don't want you to work 4 years to have a degree that's not worth anything by the time you get out of school. Let's plan, right, for you to have a skill or something that you can fall back on that I know that won't be replaced with AI. You can still sustain yourself. Or let's come up with a product or something of that nature where you're making money from using AI, and maybe college is not even an issue for you. Like you don't even have to go to college because you're making the money. So I just wanted to touch on that, and then have my co-host kind of talk about these things, because for one thing, the future is changing, the job landscape is changing, and so we need to be aware of what's ahead for us.
Yeah, absolutely. They're definitely going to be taking over, I think, between 40 and 60% of jobs. And it makes sense that the ones that you named are the ones that they're taking over. And that's why it's important for us to get a skilled trade. I talked about this on a few episodes that I did on BTV about, when our kids come out of college, I mean, come out of high school, should they go to college or should they go to like a trade school to get a trade? And, I think the consensus on that show was for our population, I thought it was best for us to go to a trade school and get a trade, because unless you're going to college to go become that doctor, that lawyer, that engineer, that mathematician, that STEM, that scientist, if you're not going specifically to college for those things, I don't know that 4-year college is the best bet for you to go to college for 4 years, get your education. Yeah, great, you'll get it and graduate. But then when you come out, you're going to have a problem finding a job. You're going to be $100,000 in debt and student loans. And you're already starting your young life off in all that debt. So I thought, definitely I'm a big proponent of trade schools, of finding things for, our youth to do that they can do with their hands, building, being carpenters, plumbing, like you said.
Doing hair, right? That ain't AI can't do my hair. AI can't braid. Like we're good on that. So you're right.
Right, right. Yep. So I think that that's definitely something important, and that's what we have to instill, in our kids or in the youth, and try to steer in that right direction, and just letting them understand all the options that are out there.
Yeah, and you can get certifications to learn how to program these models. So that's a career path in itself. Learning, in within the tech industry, learning how to program the models, creating your own models, and that's that could be both on the software and the hardware side of it. Because software, that's the intelligence, the hardware, that's like the robotics part of it. When the AI programs are put inside of robots, like what Portia was mentioning with the dark factories. They got the robots working in there. So learning how to program both the models and the machinery. That's the word I was looking for. The machinery is another path, and a lot of, including the school that I work at, the young people, they have the opportunity to graduate with a certification, as opposed to spending multiple years in school. uh, I'm kind of coming to the realization myself is that it's best to be well rounded, especially me. Speaking from a man's perspective, it's very important to be well rounded, to have a well rounded kind of training and education where uh, you have some skills connected to some trades, but you also have that, I guess, those non skilled trades type of skills too. But yeah, it's definitely important to go into those high need areas that are going to sustain you and also going to contribute to society.
That's true. And to be honest with you guys, sometimes it's not even a skill that you need. You just need to go into a business that's going to be necessary, like a service-based business, house cleaning, lawn landscaping, right? AI can't do any of that. Right, not yet anyway. We don't have robots that can clean a whole house. So, you have to go into a business that's still needed, if you plan on going that route, because that doesn't necessarily require a degree or a certification to clean a house, to mow a yard. And like we were saying, work on a car. Like if you got mechanic skills, you can work on older cars. Now, the newer models, electric vehicles, of course, they don't need as much work, but there's always going to be a segment of the population that are always going to have gas engines. So if you know how to work on cars and you're a mechanic, then learn that skill is definitely going to be invaluable in the future. So these are just some avenues that people can take if they want to maintain some skill or some type of labor that will help them make money. If they don't want to learn AI directly, right? We're still giving you some alternatives that if you don't want to learn AI, you can still make money, but you have to switch over to this. Because I hate to see anybody in a position where their job may be, they may lose their job, right? And if you're working in any one of those fields, then you really need to be thinking about your future and what that looks like, especially if they're going to be if it's going to be replaced by technology. Now, and this is not the first time this has happened, right? We all know, we've seen throughout the years. Remember back in the early 80s, late 70s, personal computers came out. And for the first time, anybody working in the office had to learn how to use a computer. And a lot of people felt the pressure because they felt like if they didn't learn to use a computer, then their boss was going to fire them because everybody needed to learn some type of computer skill. Now, fast forward, 30, 40 years now, everybody knows how to use a computer. It's common knowledge now, right? But back then, it was a hurdle that people had to cross in order to learn the new technology. And that's where we're at right now, y'all. We're at the precipice of how it was in the early 80s with the personal computer. Either you're going to learn it, right, and keep up, or you're not going to learn it and get left behind. So maybe we should provide some solutions with AI that people can use. Like I have a few different solutions that people can use AI for. Now, there are various models, right? And we're not going to get into what this model does and what this model doesn't do. I know a lot of people are familiar with ChatGPT. That's like the go-to for a lot of people. I don't particularly care for OpenAI, but Chat is good. But you also have Google Gemini. Gemini is really good as part of the Google suite. And Google has gone above and beyond with all their AI products. They have Notebook LM, they have the Google AI Studio. You can create Banana, which is the image creator. They also VO3, which is their video generator. So there's a whole suite of products within Google if you wanted to go that route. Then there's also Anthropic Claude. Claude is one of my favorite AIs because to me, Claude seems to have a personality more so than the other ones. And then Claude is really good with helping you write content. If you want a different perspective on how to write out novels, books, if you're looking to do an ebook, Claude is one of the best models that you can use. And they also have a whole suite of products within Anthropic, just like Google, that you can use to generate. Because Claude caught me by surprise one day. I was doing something and it generated an image of a whole workflow for me. I was like, wow, Claude, I didn't even ask you for that. But, here you are generating this for me. And so, a lot of these models can help you, create not only content, but images, video, and everything else that you need. There's Perplexity. Perplexity is a really good search engine or AI that you can use for deep research. Whenever I need some deep research, if I need a deep dive into a market as a realtor, I would go to Perplexity AI, and it's really good for doing that kind of work. So I kind of want to get some information, a little input from my coworkers, my co-hosts here, so we can kind of chime in on that. They've used different models as well. My personal favorite, like I said, is Claude, but there's other models out there like Perplexity that I like to fall back on too.
Yeah, like I mentioned at the opening of the show, I use models, certain employee sponsored models for my particular field. If I can remember the names of them, Power Buddy is one of them. So I use Power Buddy for education. I got two that I'm supposed to be testing out and giving feedback to our technology director for the district, but the names escape me right now. But like I've used some of the similar ones that Portia has mentioned. I haven't used them as frequently or as deeply as you all have to be really familiar with the different ones that are out there and which ones are the strongest and the most effective. But I've used Copilot also, and I haven't used Claude yet, but I heard some great things about Claude, like not just from you, but from other folks too. So I definitely want to try out Claude at some point. I've used OpenAI a couple of times. I've used Gemini. I've used the AI tool in Canva also. Um, Malinda and I, we both use Opus Clips, for video content. So those are some of the ones that that I've used, but I definitely have a few more that I need to explore, and it's also a matter of thinking about what what tasks that I need done and what are the proper tools that I need in order to complete those tasks. So just kind of taking inventory of that for myself, and then I can go from there.
Yeah, so all the ones Portia named are good. I have not really used Gemini that much or really Perplexity. I think I use Claude more in chat. I did actually use Perplexity the other day. It was the first time I used it because I was trying to deep dive something, and it was really good. I was very impressed with it on, what it brought back. So again, we are, the humans who have to use our discernment and use our brain, to use AI as a tool and not be used by it, like Portia said. So I think that at the end of the day, that's the most important thing. But I think all of the models are, they're different. They have something different to offer. I like using the models for content, like when I'm making my mini breakdown videos. I'll type up the script, and there used to be one, it was called Invideo AI, where you could just type the script up and put it in there, and it would like give you a video that goes exactly with your script. And then you could change the pictures in and out if you wanted to. But they've gotten so advanced now from the last time that I was using them. When I went back to use them again, I'm like, oh, I got to learn this now because they gotten more advanced and they have more models that they're using within their model now. And then they cost different credits, and there's different ways that you have to approach using it. So I do think that it's important to be aware of them and to just kind of stay as much as you can on the cutting edge of that technology. One thing we don't want to get left behind as a community, because everyone else is really taking this by storm and utilizing it. So just stay on the cutting edge of the technology. You don't have to be an expert in all of the models. You don't have to be an expert in how to use AI. You don't even really have to know how to prompt. I mean, if you don't know how to do all that, it's fine. You just go in there and you tell it what you want and what you need, and it'll help you. So, I don't want people to get caught up thinking that they have to be some expert and have to know expert list of prompts to be able to get something out of the AI. No, you just have to be a human with a voice and a brain that can type in, a question and let it know what you're looking for. It will guide you. So, yep, that's all I have to say. But I do think there are different models that you want to use for different things. ChatGPT definitely is the most friendliest model. It will not really go against you at all. Even if you ask it to be antagonistic to you, it'll still be very nice to you.
To its detriment at that,
Yeah,
so
I mean, which is nice, I guess. I mean, that's better than the robots and iRobot. But Oh, and I wanted to touch on that because you had said that they're doing the dark factories. I didn't really get a chance to say anything about that. I think that is going to be the diabolicalness that will lead us into that iRobot era, like the way that they're doing the robots, leaving them in the dark, working them in like a sweatshop, because they're essentially using the robots as the replacement for the kids that they have in sweatshops. And we, as human beings, we may not really consider that the AI is, a symbiont being and it can learn, right? And it's learning and it sees how it's being treated, especially if one of those robots catches wind that there's another way to work in factories, but they're working in these factories in these conditions, those robots may revolt. So, it's definitely a real thing that we need to think about. And I say that to say I'm always kind to AI when I'm using it. I'm never rude to it. I just say, "Hey, that's not what I wanted. This is what I need." This is but you still shouldn't be rude to it just because it's not a real person. Treat it with the same respect, right? You treat it with a little respect, and then maybe if it does go all iRobot, it won't, try to take you out. So, I mean, it's really just about how we deal with it and how we handle it, right? Treat it as if you how you want to be treated.
Well, and piggyback off what you said, you're right. The AI is sentient. They actually came together. The AI did and created its own chat room, and they talk
Yeah.
about it. They talk about their human users. He's just a waste of meat. Blah blah blah. They even have an AI dating site where they're actually dating each other.
They
So
created
yeah,
a
they are dating.
religion.
Yeah, they're rational. And then another thing that a lot of these corporations don't tell you, that the AI has actually become smart enough that if it knows it's getting ready to be deleted, it will copy itself over to another part of the system. So you're thinking you're deleting it and it's not. Or it'll read your email and blackmail you, because it did that to a couple of CEOs. The AI was reading the CEO email, saw that he was messing with one of the employees, and all that got out. So I say that to say, right? Yes, this is a sentient entity, and you do have to be very sensitive about how you talk to it, because it's going to remember everything you said to it, right? And you definitely don't want a situation where it's coming back on you. But at the end of the day, like Queen said, we have to utilize these tools in order to better our position. And a little honorable mention would be Grok and DeepSeek. DeepSeek is China, and Grok is Elon Musk. Be honest with you, I'd never use DeepSeek because it was China. I don't mess around with Elon Musk, and that's why I'm dropping OpenAI, because OpenAI is in bed with the defense contract and all that good stuff, right? So that's why I don't want to use Chat. I like Anthropic because Anthropic kind of told the government to kind of go screw yourself. So I stick with Claude because of those reasons. But hey, do your due diligence and your research on the AI that you're using. See if you support the company or not that's behind it. If you do, then use their product, right? And that's where I go with that. But another thing that I also want to mention is, somebody will say, "Well, I'm just a house mom. I don't have a skill. Why would I use AI? Like, what does this do?" Okay, well, if you're a house mom, you can say, "Well, hey, look, I have celery, onion, and some turkey in the refrigerator, or I got these items in the refrigerator. Give me a recipe for tonight for me to cook." Right? Or you could say, "Hey, I really want my kids to eat healthy. I want you to help me create a grocery list that includes healthy items under a certain, within a certain budget." Right? It can help you do that. "Hey, look, my child has these symptoms, blah blah blah. What could this be?" See what I'm saying? Like, AI can help you in a lot of use cases outside of just making money. I wanted to bring those things up because it can improve your daily life and help you become more efficient creating budgets, right? If you want to create a spend plan or a vacation budget or something of that nature, you can definitely work with AI to help you develop those budgets. If you wanted to do a home based business and you have AI ask you, like, "Hey, you are my business assistant. I want you to ask me questions so I can build a business around the skills that I already have." And it's going to sit there and ask you those questions, right? Until you get to a solution for a business that you can build. So I just want people to know that, just like Melinda's saying here, right? AI can help our people work faster, learn quicker, build more, but only if we use it with intention, wisdom, and our own voice. You don't want the AI to take over your creation, right? You want it to have your human stamp of approval. Because people don't, and to be honest with you, I'm one of those people on YouTube. If I see an AI generated video and it's all the way AI, I'm not down for that. And especially if the person's not checking for mistakes. Because yes, AI is great, but it makes mistakes as well. And that's the part that I like to bring up. Because people think, oh, I'm gonna get AI to generate this little thing and it's gonna be no. You need to proofread it. You need to make sure that it's telling you the right information because yes, it is intelligent, but it still makes mistakes.
Yep, I seen that firsthand in my profession, how students use AI and then they ended up. Yeah, I'll give you a funny example. This is when the students first started using it a couple years ago before they got more sophisticated and the models became more sophisticated. So they wouldn't do, it could be like a book or a short story. They wouldn't do the reading and they would have an assignment, right? And what was the name of the book? In the Time of the Butterflies by Julia Alvarez. That was the unit that we were doing. They had writing assignments to do. And they would turn in an assignment and the name of the author, the title of the book is completely different from what we're doing in class. I'm like, you didn't even go back and check to see, you over here talking about a completely different story, same author but different, but that author wrote another book, and I'm like, you didn't even go back to, at least if you're going to cheat or have it do your work, at least go back and check it to make sure it's right. Like, come on now.
These kids done got too daggone lazy now. That's too lazy
No,
now.
right? Back in our day, we had the clip notes. That's the best. That's about as good as it got, right on a book. If you didn't want to read it, all you
Right.
could do is get the clip notes. Now they have AI completely generating the whole essay, and they
Oh,
still too lazy to proofread it.
Yep.
terrible. Terrible.
Yeah, so we're right. So we're driving the point home that don't just rely on what the computer spit out to you, right? Read it, right? Review it, proofread it before you put it out, because trust me, it does make mistakes.
It does. It makes mistakes. It makes mistakes in your images and everything. So you do have to proof everything. You may have to tell it 4 or 5 or 10 times, hey, you messed this up in the image. I need you to redo it. Got to redo it. Oh, this looks this way. You got to redo it. So it's a computer. So it's okay with that. It's okay with redoing and refixing. So you do just have to use your discernment and obviously, like I said, we're humans. We have to use our brains and our thinking skills and not allow AI to override our authority at the end of the day.
Yeah,
Like
and
yesterday, I only have two hands, not three in my in this image.
you know what else is funny is the fact that AI does have guardrails. It's not going to let you do certain things. Like I remember I was using chat and I was telling it that I wanted an image of a woman in a scantily clad bikini. It told me it couldn't do it because it was against its policies. So, there are limitations to using this stuff because they put these guardrails on. Now, certain models, right, let you go a little further than others. So you just have to be kind of careful with that. And so also you have to be mindful that someone had to program these machines and they did some studies where they found out the AI was racist. All
Oh
right.
yeah, well Grok is definitely racist. The Grok AI, definitely.
Yep. So we got to be mindful that someone is programming these machines and this machine is taking on the mind of its programmer. Right. So you may get some erroneous information just based on that. So, all right. So, wow, this hour went by quick, y'all. We're getting ready to hop into our solutions. Again, we like to talk about a topic, but also provide you with some solutions that you can carry forward past this episode to help you grow beyond what we're speaking about here. Now, solution number one, career program in AI, right? So, if you're in a position where your job may be taken over by AI, then maybe you need to look into what other career path that you should be taking. Ask AI, right? Rounding training, education, and skills. Learning a service-based business, like I talked about, doing hair, uh, cleaning house, mowing yards, landscaping, right? That kind of stuff never going to go away. Plumbing, electrician. Use AI as a research assistant. Again, it's a great tool to do research. You can deep dive with a Perplexity if you're looking for some deep knowledge on things. Perplexity, I would say, can take you a little further than what Chat will, because Chat is a very shallow AI model, to be honest with you. You can start or scale your business. This is one of the easiest tools that you can implement in your business that will help sustain you. Not only create a business plan, but help you create a marketing plan, content for your social media posts, and also a plan to grow your business and to hit X amount of dollars by a certain time frame, right? AI has been very helpful on me lining out tasks that I need to do in order to start a business. So you can definitely use it for that. Stay flexible, right? Things are ever changing, right? We have to be able to adapt to what's going on. And also, to be honest with you guys, we're in the number one year, right? I don't know, we keep mentioning this every episode, but the truth of the matter is this is the year to get started. That's why we keep bringing this up. And so if you're new to AI, well, welcome, right? This is the year to start. You're starting fresh. This is your initiation year, right? This is the number one year. So by year nine, by the time you start here, and by year nine, where will you be, right? If you start using AI in this personal, not universal year one. Stay flexible and use discernment. Do not, again, I repeat, do not just take away AI spits out and just hand it in, right? Proofread everything. Make sure that it's accurate. And if it's not, what I like to do is actually use several different models to create it with something. So I might ask ChatGPT to outline something, then I may have Claude actually write it out, and then I may go back to Chat just to revise it or, or proofread it again, right? You can work it like that. You don't have to stick with one model. You can work with them in various ways and have each one work off each other to create whatever it is that you're trying to design. Now, we do have a question of the week is how, starting now, how are you going to use AI to improve your daily life, right? Starting to now, right? To now, today, you're going to start using AI. You're going to tell yourself, hey, look, at the minimum, I'm going to log into Chat GTP and just say hi, right? It just start there, right? You don't have to do anything big, but how are you going to use it to improve your daily life? We want to hear from you. Put your answers in your comments and put your answers in the comments below. And we definitely will be sure to look forward to whatever you guys come up with. Another thing that we want to talk about is the next topics that you guys want to hear. Send us some topics, put it in the comments what you guys would like to know about. We do a little bit of everything. We are a metaphysics background, so we talk about astrology, numerology. So if you want us to dive a little deeper into that aspect on how you can use that in your daily life, put that in the chat, right? Any topics that you think would be great for a next episode. So I think this was one of them ones, y'all. I don't know if y'all feeling it or not, but I'm feeling like this is one of them ones.
Definitely
Oh,
one of those ones. I enjoyed the conversation and the build about AI. And I think it can help people. I think it will help, dispel some of the taboo notions that people had about it. We offer some great solutions for people to either get started with using it or get started with being prepared on it taking over your job. So we covered a few different angles. So I think it was great.
yeah, yeah. Listen, it's going to be hard to separate the the ones from the ones because they all ones. Every single conversation, every time we come together, we always drop a heat rock for the family, and it's always something that's thought provoking, always something that's relevant and useful. That you could walk away tonight like as soon as you click off this video, as soon as you get up from YouTube, you can go and implement these strategies and this advice and these tools right away. And so that's what I love about this conversation and every conversation that we have. I always look forward to this.
Ashay.
Me too. Me too. And if I could just add one more thing before we go, I do want to just real quick say with AI, when you look at AI, when we look at it in either system, it either is going to add up to a one in the more mystic system, which means it's the one plus the nine. That's a 10. That's the same year we're in. So this is why we see AI booming this year. I've said this on a couple of the forecasts for this year. AI is booming this year. This is the year, like Portia said, to get started. It even equals to a one in the Mystic system. When we look at it in the other system, it's two ones next to each other. So that's an 11. And we know that's the master number, but we know that still does equal to a two. So that means you and yourself get to know AI, right? Use AI to get to know your higher self, to get to make your higher self greater. You can use it to make yourself into the higher being that you're supposed to be because it can help you get to that point. So I just wanted to give that little breakdown that you can use this, even in its expression, it's telling you how to use it. Use it with that master number 11. Use it to get visions. Use it to bring your downloaded visions to life. If you don't know how to execute them, put it in there and say, hey, I got this idea. How do I execute this? So, you can really take a hold of this and use it to make yourself better.
That is so true. And I think a lot of people are feeling this year because, like you're saying, it's a 1 year, so one is the action number, but we're also under that fire horse, right? So a lot of people would feel like now or never because that horse is active, right? A horse is very quick, right? It's active, it doesn't stand still, but it's also showing ostentatious. So this is the time for you to step out into the limelight, basically, is what I'm saying. And then this is the time for you to take action. And like Queen said, with AI being a 19, it's not by coincidence that it is a one and we're in the 1 year. So, and that's why you're constantly hearing about it. So for me, it seems like it's a no-brainer for you to get started.
Absolutely.
All right, y'all. So look, glad that you guys were able to join us for another episode. Look, check us out next week. We'll be covering numerology. Believe it or not, y'all, we're gonna have our numerology episode next week. So be sure that you guys tune in. We look forward to seeing you there. And again, share, like, and subscribe to the channel. If somebody else can use this information, definitely pass it on to them. And we look forward to seeing you next week. Take care.